I think most gamers would agree that there's a certain attraction to games like Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row that just kind of let you go crazy with a bunch of different weapons and vehicles. And those types of games are really built around those principles. Back in 2003, a development team called Running with Scissors tried to do the same thing when they created Postal², a violent first-person shooter running on the Unreal 2 engine that puts you in the shoes of the Postal dude.
Don't crowd, there's plenty for everyone.
And though it is undeniably offensive across the board, the game is still surprisingly enjoyable at times. The general gist of the game is pretty simple. You're just an average guy going about town doing menial chores, buying milk, doing your laundry, that kind of shit. Most often as you finish a task, something goes horribly wrong, and a group of maniacs show up with guns trying to kill everyone in sight. Your first objective literally involves you going to collect your paycheck. In a weird twist, Postal Dude actually works for a digital version of the Running with Scissors development team. Shortly after you get your money, your boss fires you before the building is swarmed by an angry mob of violent video game protesters. How you handle the ensuing carnage is all up to the player. Do you mow down everyone in sight or just try to make a hasty escape? And throughout the game, there's a lot of variety and freedom given to the player during these types of moments. There's also lots of exploration involved as you make your way from task to task, where you'll inevitably get sidetracked and check out the nearby environments. Exploring is a good way to get cash and also find extra weapons to play around with. Postal² has a surprisingly large weapon roster, from standard pistols, shotguns and machine guns through to napalm launchers, taser guns and Molotov cocktails. If you find the standard weapons too boring, you can always decorate them. Now, while the game says that you're never really forced to go around murdering people, it sure as hell doesn't discourage you from doing so. At one point, I came across a brightly dressed marching band walking down the middle of the goddamn street. Now, the only way it could have been more obvious was if they'd had bullseyes painted on their backs. Naturally, I did what anyone would. I left a trail of petrol in front of their path, waited until they crossed the line, and then lit them all on fire. Worth noting is that Postal² does have a really well-designed fire system. One of the earliest weapons you get your hands on is a jerry can that can be used to leave a trail of fuel, which can be useful for laying traps or just generally lighting shit on fire. When NPCs are lit on fire, they flee around, screaming out obscenities, often igniting other nearby NPCs as well. Eventually, they crawl across the ground as a charred, bloody mess, clambering onto what life they've got left before collapsing. To add extra insult to injury, you can even piss on them to put them out. Oh yeah, the piss system in this game, I almost forgot about that. At any given moment, the Postal Dude can whip out his junk and just start relieving himself at will. In a nice twist, if you forget to put your fly back up, people passing by will even remark at it, even drawing the attention of the authorities if you're not careful.
Hey, Mr. Peep Show, stop right there!
At one point, I was really low on cash and needed to go pay a speeding fine. Yeah, not even joking, one of the mission objectives is to pay a speeding fine at the police station. Anyway, so I thought I'd see if I could steal some money from the bank. I was pleasantly surprised to find thousands of dollars inside a guarded vault, and even more impressed at how the alarm went off and security teams swarmed my position as I cleaned the joint out. You can pretty much do whatever the hell you want. Whether it's barging into someone's home and pissing on their toilet seat, or just exploring nearby buildings for items. If you see a house, 9 times out of 10 you can go right up and kick the front door in. There really is a lot of nice little details like this that Postal² excels at. The only limit is the player's personal imagination and perversion levels. Like GTA, there's sort of a wanted system where police will chase after you if you're caught doing something you shouldn't be. What's also cool about this is that it works for the NPCs as well. This is most useful later in the game when certain social groups pretty much shoot at you on sight, and it's fun to watch police get into gunfights with them. Obviously, the major dilemma for this game is that for the majority of people in the world, the content is going to be extremely offensive. I mean, it really is politically incorrect in every single sense of the word.
I'm gonna make him squeal like a chicken. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disappointed that Gary Coleman is in this game either.
Send out the former child actor. We have a warrant for his arrest.
Go back to the donut convention. I ain't going nowhere.
I like to think I've got a fairly decent sense of humor, and I was able to get a bit of a laugh out of most of the absurdities on offer, but that can still only really go so far. It's really, really lowbrow stuff. Toilet humor, homosexual gun-toting rednecks, Arab terrorists, that kind of thing. And it never really rises from that cesspool of content. You gotta keep in mind, Uwe Boll made a fucking movie out of this game. Also, walking from place to place can get a little bit tedious, and a lot of the transition points from map to map are blocked and only removed as you progress the story. which can be a bit annoying when you've headed a certain direction only to find it completely inaccessible. Save for a few jingles heard every now and then, the game is completely devoid of music. They've done a good enough job of atmospheric effects and other sound effects, but at times it can seem like something's missing. And lastly, the hit detection is just awful. Headshots often don't seem to register at all, and some of the weapons, as awesome as they are, feel really underpowered because of this. A little bit more polish in this area would have really helped the shooting, as you ultimately spend a lot of time getting into firefights, especially towards the end of the game. When you compare Postal 2 to other chaotic murder simulators like Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row, it's inevitably going to come up a little short. Postal 2 on the whole is still a largely entertaining game, if only as a sandbox experience that lets you get away with some truly sick shit. If it wasn't for its subpar writing, it might have been a bit more well received. At the end of the day, I can't really outright recommend something like this, as I don't know what sort of reservations most gamers would have.
We be all sold out and shit.
Shit.
But if you're a pretty easygoing, light-minded type of person, you may get a few hours of enjoyment out of it. It's on good old games for like $7 or so if you're interested in picking it up.